Ho, 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 and welcome to Breaking Mayberry, the Christmas show where a couple of guys watch the Andy Griffith show to get in touch with the Christmas spirit. I am Marty Schneider.
I'm Dan Ludwig. And you went off book, and that was so startling.
Well, I went off book because we have a special guest today. From the podcast Christmas Creeps, and my longtime writing partner from Something Awful and Front Row Central, good friend of mine, and I'm so happy to have him on the show, Mr. Joseph J. Dub Wade. Joe?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Joe, tell us about Christmas Creeps before we get into this.
Okay, so Christmas Creeps is a podcast that my friends and I have started where every 2 weeks we will reconvene and we will discuss another Christmas film or TV show that has a Christmas episode, or a film that's even tangentially related to Christmas in search of the true meaning of Christmas. Because, as I've said many times before, I am a horrible weirdo, and my co-hosts are even more horrible enablers. And that's kind of what we do on Christmas Creeps, as awful Christmas movie banter and that kind of stuff.
I mean, you are on a podcast about the Andy Griffith show. You are amongst good company in terms of weirdos.
I gotta say, I even based our rating system on this show off of your rating system on Christmas Creeps. So, you were a direct
You based
influence.
your rating system off of the worst thing in the universe. Great. Congratulations.
Yeah. That's about right, actually. It seemed appropriate at the time. We've got Joe here because this is a Christmas episode, and we'll be airing this. This is our Christmas in July. We're doing Season 1, Episode 11, The Christmas Story. And this is the only Christmas episode in the Andy Griffith Show's entire 8-year run.
Which is fucking nuts. How this is like the most Christmas compatible TV show. How do they not like Bob's Burgers milks the crap out of Christmas every year. How did the Andy Griffith show do it once?
I gotta say, maybe I don't think they could do better than this.
Yeah, they got it so right they didn't want to mess it up.
You'd think they would have taken like another swing at it in like the later seasons when they were running out of material.
You know, they apparently never did, because their last 2 seasons were the most popular. It's a very weird thing. I will say that it feels so good that I've got you guys here, and we're going to talk about an episode that I unironically, unashamedly love of the Andy Griffith Show. Like, this is a good episode, and it feels so good to talk about something good today.
It's like it has Andy Griffith Show bullshit, but it has just the right amount of Andy Griffith Show bullshit. Like it like every now and then, and there'll be just something a little moral reprehensibility, just as like a garnish on something overall like good and really well done. It's perfect. Which, yeah, we desperately needed this.
And I think this is like the point in like that first season where the concept of the Andy Griffith Show clicked, because it's both like really indicative of what the show would become, but also not entirely, because there's a lot of stuff in this episode that just never shows up again in the show.
Right. And we'll get into that when we have description. Like, there's a couple of these things that I think were like retconned later on. So, but a couple of things in this episode are like incompatible with what we see about the Andy Griffith Show later on. And you just kind of have to ignore it. Yeah. It's a Christmas miracle or something.
This is an Elseworld title in the Andy Griffith Show.
Yes.
This isn't technically canon. The Watcher shows up at the beginning of this episode and is like, gaze into another future where you could drink in Mayberry.
Griffith by gaslight.
Yes.
The other reason I'm excited to have you on, Joe, is you are the first Southerner we've had on the show.
Well, that's certainly an honor, isn't it? I guess.
I mean, not only that, but you're from North Carolina, so this is like in your backyard.
Oh yeah. I grew up, like, Mayberry is based on Mount Airy, North Carolina. I grew up like 30 minutes from Mayberry. So this is my wheelhouse right here, is this show specifically.
How big is the Andy Griffith Show in your part of the South?
I don't think it's very big outside of North Carolina, really, because, I mean, we have the Andy Griffith Show Festival here every year, Mayberry Days. Andy Griffith retired in Wilmington kind of famously, and where he went to produce Matlock after the fact. I think it's really just kind of more of a local thing than it is a Southern thing.
Have you been to Mayberry Days?
I have, yes.
Oh, tell us. Please tell us about it.
Yeah, is there like like Opie balloons that people carry around? Is there like Barney-themed snacks?
No snacks, no shaped balloons, but you do get like the sort of the foods that of like the barbecue and the down home cooking that you'd see on the show, and you got your Barney Fife impersonators out, and up until very recently
nightmarish.
Up until recently they would have like actual cast members show up for this thing, but the rigors of time being what they are, they've kind of passed on. But Mayberry Days is a great event if you really want to see Mount Airy struggle to become Mayberry for a day.
Do they have like they're constantly hoping that Ron Howard shows up? Like they have a seat reserved for him. They send him an invitation every year. Just they have a seat for him like Elijah.
It's like how a drag show has a seat for RuPaul just in case she shows up.
Just every year the guy who runs it is just like, this is the year that we're finally going to net Ron Howard. We saw it. He's in the area. He's filming a movie just a state over. He's going to come this year.
I think one year they got Clint Howard, and that was the best they ever got.
Oh.
But no, like there's an Andy Griffith museum. There's a statue of Andy and Little Opie, which is really kind of spooky if you really study it. I don't think Ron Howard wants to go there to see that statue personally.
Like, I wouldn't.
I don't know.
I wouldn't go see a statue of Little Me. That's weird.
Yeah, no, like a statue to your, or just an entire region that is like super invested in your personal childhood and the thing you did as a child.
On the other hand, if Ron Howard ever feels like starting a cult, he's already got a jump on everyone else. He's got a base of operations ready and waiting for him.
Yeah, he's got a city full of parishioners just like, come on down, please.
It's the perfect retirement plan to start a cult.
All right, Joe, so we're definitely probably next summer going to make that trek down, so you'll have to join us for Mayberry Days.
I'll be your tour guide.
Yes!
We will almost certainly die during this trip. I place our survival expectations very low.
Wow! All right.
Off to a good start.
Let's go ahead and get into this. Episode 11 aired December 19th, 1960. Directed by department store Santa manager Bob Sweeney. Written by David Adler. So good 1-2 punch here. David Adler, our hero here on Breaking Mayberry.
Also known as Frank Tarloff, blacklisted writer.
All right, so here is our one-sentence summary of the Christmas story from Wikipedia. Despite being forced by Scrooge Ben Weaver to arrest bootlegger Sam Muggins on Christmas Eve.
I didn't catch that his last name was Muggins. That's so good.
Sam Muggins.
Sam Muggins.
The patriarch of the Muggin clan.
He sounds like an old-timey, like, gangster. The Muggins gang has come to rob this bank.
He sounds like one of the guys who was like in Babyface Nelson's gang who gets nabbed early on in the movie.
We leave a hoot jug after every massacre.
All right, despite being forced by Ben Weaver to arrest bootlegger Sam Muggins on Christmas Eve, Andy still manages to have the most wonderful Christmas in Mayberry. That is our one-sentence summary from Wikipedia. So let's just jump right into this. We open up. It is Christmas Eve, and Andy is locking up a bunch of prisoners. By the way, a lot of prisoners.
So many prisoners, like 7 dudes. Like, and Andy is like the jail is packed, which it's not supposed to be. Like, by the fundamental laws of Mayberry, the jail is supposed to have, like, Otis and maybe one other person.
Right. It's Otis and then a rotating seat. But yeah, for some reason, there's just been a crime spree in Mayberry around Christmas.
And Andy's response to this is to apologize to the prisoners for the shitty accommodations. He's like, I'm really sorry that there's not enough pillows. For some reason, he's not like, all right, there's like, Mayberry is dissolving into chaos, where we have a full jail cell. We need reinforcements. Yeah, he's extremely cavalier about this crime spree.
He's just like, sorry, it sucks. I don't know what's going on.
Sorry, y'all, but your tax dollars ain't gonna pay for a third cell.
It's apparently it's like I was gonna say the Purge, but that doesn't make any sense. No one be getting left out.
The Purge in Mayberry would be so good.
It would be an extremely impolite evening. Except for
Ernest
Don
T.
Knotts, who would
Baskets to
kill
throw
so many
bricks
people.
without any repercussions. It would be fantastic.
Alright, so Barney enters brandishing a big old stack of Christmas cards. So Andy and Barney sit down together to review the Christmas cards they got, including one from, like, the Walken brothers or whatever, who are, like, sending, like, Merry Christmas from state prison, and there's, like, a picture of them in their cell, and that's their, like, Christmas card.
Which, again, like, did they arrest, like, 3 dudes, but were so polite about it that they're cool about it? Like, it sort of takes place in this weird alternate version of Mayberry where there is actually crime and Andy and Barney occasionally arrest people.
So this is an Elseworlds story, a what-if story. Like, what if Andy were competent at his job at all? That's dismissed immediately because for the reasons we're about to see.
Okay, so while they're reviewing Christmas cards, Barney gets one from Hilda May, and for some reason is embarrassed by the fact that his girlfriend got him a Christmas card. Andy, which is sort of validated because Andy then ribs him for getting a Christmas card from his girlfriend of several episodes. Like, it's the most weirdly high school thing. Like, were you not supposed to admit that you were dating someone back then? Was the 1960s just high school? Like, or not even high school, middle school? It's the weirdest
Barney likes
situation.
Hilda. Barney likes Hilda.
Yeah, he's like doing like a full like, who's it from? Hilda May. Ooh, do you like her? Does she like you? Are you guys gonna go to the dance together?
Barney and Hilda sitting in a tree. Yeah, it's really weird. But the, like, letter that she writes him is really, like, weird and embarrassing. It's, like, mostly baby talk. I want to point out, by the way, Hilda May has barely spoken this entire time. We've seen her. We have not heard her. The only time we hear her is in her last appearance, which is the episode we did last time. Andy saves Barney's morale, where she does that monologue about, like, Barney doesn't like to be made fun of, and you're like, I was very concerned for Hilda's life at that point.
But, this leads into the reoccurring joke of the episode in that Barney is like Hilda May in the letter called Barney a pet name, and Andy is like, "Come on, man, it's safe. You can tell me what the what the pet name is. I'll be cool about it." And Barney's like, "Oh, she called me Barney Poo," and Andy proceeds to in no way be cool about it. Just sort of like mercilessly tear into Barney like, "Barney Poo! Hey, everyone in the jail cell! You know, prisoners? This guy's girlfriend called him Barney Poo! What a fucking idiot!"
I think you're missing one, Dan. I think it was Barney Parney Poo. Like, there was an extra, like,
oh,
which makes
God.
it worse. Yeah.
So is this like the first time in the show that Andy is painted as kind of a bully, or have they done this since then?
Oh,
no, that's like episode 2.
Okay. Because, yeah, Andy is... This is like classic bully behavior from Andy. Like, sidle up to him, tell him, you can trust me, and then totally betray that trust in 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah, no. In terms of abusive behavior, this is like... This is very low on the Andy Griffith gaslighting scale. This is low grade emotional abuse for him.
But I guess in this episode, it stands out because it's kind of the only instance when he really does it.
I mean, I'll say it's just like, it's friendly teasing, and he definitely does cut it out whenever Barney tells him to cut it out, only to bring it back up a few hours later.
Right.
Yeah, but in other episodes, he does, like, emotional and psychological torture on Barney like it's, I have no mouth and I must scream. Like, he tears into this poor little man's psyche so much.
Alright, so the next thing that happens is Andy gets a call from Aunt Bee, and they start to discuss the plans for Christmas. What are we gonna have? What are you bringing? Who's gonna be there? Who's gonna play Santa? And Andy suggests that Barney play Santa. And, like, as soon as that happened, I gotta say, I definitely had Mrs. Claus from Rudolph pop into my head. Who ever heard of a skinny Santa? Eat, Papa, eat. That's just me? No? Not even Joe the Christmas guy?
No, that's definitely you. Like, no, not definitely you, but that's definitely true. Excuse me. Like, read Barney like, Barney, if you're going to get into that suit, I want to put on a few, have a few extra bread rolls with dinner.
I was genuinely just taken aback by the Star Wars extra that you turned into for a brief period of time.
So Andy asks Barney to be Santa, and Barney rightfully observes that he can't, because as long as they get prisoners in the cell, someone's got to be on duty, so he's not going to be there. Which
leads to the designated Andy does something insane portion of the episode. Like, my favorite, possibly one of my favorite actions that Andy ever does in the entire goddamn show.
Yeah, you want to tell him what it is, Dan?
Okay, so he asks Barney, like, alright, so what are they in for? And Barney, like, starts to go, like, well, we arrested him for, and he goes, like, no. They're in here to learn a lesson about how they should participate in society. So that kind of makes us teachers. And in school, don't they let the kids out for Christmas? And Barney's like, yeah, I guess. And Andy just goes like, all right, so we're agreed. We're releasing all of the prisoners. Like, and then just opens the jail cell and be like, all right, guys, so you're out for Christmas. Come back after. Be careful crossing the street and don't get too drunk.
I just noticed that
so
Dan's notes for this episode contained the phrase, Andy goddamn lets goddamn everyone out of the goddamn jail.
Just what I wanted to happen as they're walking out is just one of the prisoners to turn to another one and just be like, Jeff, weren't you arrested for murder?
Yeah.
Like, and then Jeff just goes like, yeah, I guess I'll go finish? Like, I guess I'll go finish that crime.
Oh, that's right. There's 3 kids in my basement. But the most baffling part of this scene to me is that when Andy lets them out of the jail, like, they're all leaving jail and they all have, like, wrapped Christmas presents with them. Like, what were they doing when he arrested all of them?
Yeah, they like, I like to imagine that maybe they just had their presents with them and they were, like, in jail to do some last minute wrapping. Like, maybe Andy just passed them the tape and the, like, wrapping paper through the bars. Maybe it was just like a Turbo Man, a Jingle All the Way situation.
Oh, no.
And all of these parents had committed horrible crimes in the process of getting those toys for their children because they waited until the last minute. By the way,
did he rob it, or did he arrest an entire gang that was robbing the local department store? Or what?
The Muggins gang.
So everyone
promised to come back. He asked them to promise to come back.
Yeah, everyone's happy, and Barney and Andy are on their way to have their Christmas festivities when enter our villain, our Scrooge, Ben Weaver, played by an elderly man named Will Wright, who has quite a lot of credits to his name.
SimCity creator Will Wright.
He Michael Caine's this Scrooge performance. He tears this Scrooge character apart. Like, he's a good actor.
Yeah, he's really good at this. I thought for a second that he was Thurl Ravencroft of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch fame, but it is not. It's a different dude. But same kind of idea. And so Ben comes in, and he's holding this I don't know, this like very dorky looking dude, Sam Muggins, who looks like he came off a fucking Campbell's soup can. And
he looks like a creature from the Dark Crystal. Like he looks like just an adorable, like just this adorable little puppet of a man.
Yeah, he's basically Howdy Doody come to life. This is, by the way, the only time we'll ever see Sam Muggins in this show. But he comes in and he's mad at Sam Muggins for moonshining. And as we know before, right, moonshining serious business in Mayberry. Except Ben's reasoning, the reason he's so upset by this is that he owns a liquor store. He owns a store that sells spirits, and he's tired of moonshiners cutting into his business, cutting into his profits. Mayberry is a dry county. We know this. That's a
major plot point of like 7 episodes. Like, so far. Like, which is it? Do you think it was like they changed their minds later on, or just forgot about this?
I think they had to, right? Like, they were just a kind of a like, well, let's hope nobody notices. Because
yeah, I think they wrote it in a hurry and then didn't even notice that this had been placed in the canon already. Like, let's just get this out here. But yeah, like,
or what if it is established eventually that old Ben is very like powerful throughout the state. What if Mayberry's like a dry county, with the exception of old Ben's liquors? Like maybe he has like a government enforced monopoly on Mayberry.
Ooh,
he does that. He does imply that he is pretty powerful and has friends in high places.
He basically does a speech of, I own this state! I'll have your job if you dare cross me. Yeah, maybe he's like the liquor baron of Mayberry County.
We've never seen this guy before. But this is his first appearance, but he's apparently like the boogeyman, and he's the only guy in Mayberry that Andy Griffith like treats with any authority whatsoever.
Yeah.
I feel like he should have been like the Lex Luthor of this show. Like they should have brought Ben back for something, because
they do
good in this to not, you know.
He comes back. He is a reoccurring fuckface. Like he learns his lesson at the end of this episode and then promptly forgets it.
But I don't think like he comes back every season with a new scheme to like destroy Mayberry, which, you know, maybe that would have elevated the show a little bit. Not that it needed elevating, but you know. Maybe he's trying to destroy the youth center, and Opie has to stop him in season 3 with the power of
breakdancing.
Sure, the power of the twist.
The only way to save a youth center. But he does. He shows up later and does try to foreclose on a family. Which Andy has to stop. He does come back, and he gets back to his old shenanigans pretty goddamn quickly.
That's actually the reason why we're doing this episode now as opposed to waiting until closer to Christmas, is because we had to get this out of the way first and introduce Ben before we got to that episode again.
Establish Ben as the villain now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is the episode where we meet our like recurring bad guy in Mayberry. A foil to Andy. And Andy points out, like, Ben could cause a lot of problems for him and Barney if he wanted to. So, reluctantly, they do book Sam on charges of moonshining.
It's really cool that, well, not cool, but sort of Andy Griffith style fucked up that the only person so far who has demonstrated any authority over Andy whatsoever is, like, a local businessman. Like, not the mayor, not like the state police, not sort of any government official whatsoever. Just a dude with a liquor store is able to like grind Andy to a shrieking halt. A little bit of accidental social commentary from the Andy Griffith Show yet again.
Once again, though, this is David Adler. I don't think it's accidental.
Oh, right. Yeah, man, when he can get like very stealth progressive when the subject isn't women.
Yeah, that's true. This is the least horny David Adler episode, too. So...
yeah, I don't think he gets horny at all in this one.
So, they talk about how sad it is that Sam has to be away from his family on Christmas. And that gives Andy an idea. And he says the phrase, "There's more than one way to plug a buzzard." I don't know
what does that
means.
even fucking mean? Like, what? Why are you plugging a buzzard? He doesn't. I think he meant to say pluck, but he explicitly says plug.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
like to plug someone, like to shoot them.
Yeah,
so,
but there's only one way to shoot a buzzard.
Unless Opie does it with a slingshot, I guess.
It sounds like he's violating this poor bird.
Also, like, plugging anything is that's something a gangster does, Andy.
Andy is pretty gangster adjacent. He is like a cross between a sheriff and a mob boss of Mayberry. Like,
there's more than one way to ventilate a chicken hawk, I recollect.
there's more than one way to bleed a snitch, right, Barney?
Right, Barney?
Right, Andy?
So then we fade to black, and we fade back up, and old Ben is outside the jailhouse, and he sees Andy pull up in a cruiser. And when he gets out of the cruiser, he has Sam's wife and children with him. And old Ben is just very mad about this. So
he does like a little fist shake, like, "Oh, sheriff, I knew you were going to pull this." It's adorable.
So he like shaking his cane, wanders inside, and he follows Andy and Sam's family, going, "What are you up to? Well, I knew you were gonna get up to some shenanigans." He's like,
he literally says shenanigans.
He's Yosemite Sam in this whole thing. Like, why, you rassin' varmint?
He's like a cartoon character. He is like might be the most cartoon character of anyone on this show.
Like, Andy pretty much turns to him and goes, what's up, Doc? A
really good game of semantics follows. That was a solid Bugs Bunny.
Really? Because it came out like Peter Griffin to me.
Oh, I'm gonna have to listen to that playback.
So Andy's defense is that he has decided to arrest Sam's entire family, including the children, which apparently is just a thing you can do in this city.
But he concocts a reason for it. Like, he establishes, what's the word? He establishes motive. He establishes
culpability.
They knew about this.
Yeah.
Culpability, thank you. And, like, did you see your daddy making moonshine, Billy? Uh-huh. Did you see your daddy making moonshine? Uh-huh. See, Ben, there you go.
Yeah, they're all accessories, before, during, and after the fact, is exactly
That's the best Andy Griffith someone has done on this show the entire time, and I'm kind of mad about it, because we were so close to cracking it.
I told you guys, I grew up with this shit, man. Like, it's in my blood.
We were on the verge of figuring out Andy Griffith's southern accent, and you just swooped in and did it.
The secret is to have a southern accent.
God damn it.
So Barney comes in, and he's got a tree, and Aunt Bee comes in, and she's got the turkey, and she's got all the spread, and Ellie comes in, and she's got like a big old pitcher of eggnog. I love this part, because Ellie like scoops out a ladle full of eggnog, and Andy takes the ladle, and it passes the ladle to Sam through the bar. Just like, here you go, guys, drink from this. Just to remind you, you're still prisoners, I guess.
You ain't good enough for cups.
Yeah. And
they're like halfway doing the facade. Like they're like you have to be in jail, but also fuck this.
And Ben the whole time is just getting angrier and angrier. And he's, what is going on? Why are you having a party? And Andy's excuse is that he has deputized everyone here. Like, everyone gets to be here. Like, because Andy can just deputize anyone at any time.
They then show each and every person with, like, a deputy's badge, like Ellie and Aunt Bee, and then after that, Opie, which it should have been just old Ben going like, alright, well, checkmate, you deputized a child, so none of this is okay.
And also, like, a very uncomfortable shot of Aunt Bee's ass, because that's where she put her badge, for some reason.
I think I blocked that out.
It rules. It's really funny. Like, that is one of Aunt Bee's, like, defining fuck you moments. Like,
one of many.
Wipe my ass with the authority in this town.
Aunt Bee's rage against the machine is fuck. Aunt Bee gives no quarter.
Aunt Bee won't do what you tell me. Aunt Bee won't do what you tell me. Aunt B won't do what you tell me.
Fuck! Oh, Christ.
Okay.
It's so insane that the most anti-authoritarian person on this show is Aunt fucking B.
Alright, so I'm just getting to the end of the scene. So, basically, Ben, storms out in a huff, and he, circles around behind the jail, and he does this bit. He tries to climb up the window. He's scowling. I think this is the first time, maybe the first and only time, we ever see the perspective from the jail cell looking in to the courthouse.
Yeah, it's a weird shot.
It's a good shot, though. I like it a lot. So we see from Ben's point of view as he, peeks through the bars in the window and looks into everybody having a good time. Then he starts to think. It's basically the Grinch, right? The Grinch is hatching a plan.
You know what my favorite thing about this episode is? It's one of the few shows I've watched where, Scene 1, introduce a conflict. Scene 2, solve the conflict. Remainder of the episode, yeah, suck it, conflict. It's just, they solve the problem almost immediately, and then the remainder of the show is just everyone going yeah, solved that problem. Here's an actual party in real time. It rules.
With musical breaks and dancing and letters from the audience at home, it's great.
There's just prolonged periods where the cast is just hanging out, going hey, remember when we had that problem? That sure sucked. Glad it's over almost immediately. Who wants to hear me play this guitar?
Honestly, though,
everybody.
I think that's what makes me like this episode so much. Because the feeling of a Christmas party on the Andy Griffith set, that feels like what we're watching. It feels like we're not seeing Andy Taylor, Barney Fife, Ellie Walker. It really does feel like After Hours, Andy Griffith, Don Knotts, Eleanor Donahue, Francis.
A loosening of the tie.
Yeah, it feels like they're hanging out as friends, and it does come across. It's a couple episodes ago we talked about how Barney and Andy's friendship really works because Don Knotts and Andy Griffith were such good friends. And this is one of those times when we let that real life camaraderie sneak into the episode, and it plays very well.
And it's kind of a nice reminder that Andy Griffith got his start as a down home Southern musical comedian. The musical numbers in this episode are very nice, very lovely, and you forget that he is an actual trained musician as well.
Well, no, you don't. You don't, because he reminds us at every opportunity on this show. But
yeah, he will spare no chance to break out his guitar. Anytime there's more than 2 seconds of silence, Andy just slowly starts bringing the guitar out from behind something.
Okay, fair enough. I'll be perfectly honest. You guys right now are the Andy Griffith experts. It's kind of a thing where I remember it from my childhood, and that's kind of where it stays right now.
Yeah, no, you haven't been submitted to the madness we have been submitted to.
So, back inside the courthouse, I guess we probably faded to a commercial and came back. Opie comes in, yelling! Ah! As Opie is known to do. Just yell.
Pa, pa, pa!
Yeah.
A premium Ron Howard shriek.
Just yelling about a robbery happening outside. And so everyone runs outside, and they find Ben. Ben is I love this shot. Ben is just, taking a wooden bench, and he's just walking down in a huff,
I feel like Andy should have immediately turned to Opie and just be okay, so we need to work on your definition of robbery. Because that means a lot. This is an old man stealing a bench. Robbery could mean, firearms, right?
It's such a silly little... It's very Coen Brothers, the silliness of this moment. And everyone's just following behind them, just going, what are you doing? Why are you stealing that bench? And,
yeah. It's the weirdest crime. He's just, he's stealing just a piece of outdoor furniture. The response to that most realistically would be alright, well, we'll just take it back, tomorrow, because it's a bench. It's also not a very good bench. It's pretty clearly worth like $2. So fine.
So Barney, of course, wants to arrest him. Like, all right, we'll arrest him. Andy says, no, that's dumb. And he's gonna do it, but Ellie, and I love this recurring gag, that Ellie just talks him out of it. Just like, look, it's Christmas. Let him have the frickin' bench. And Andy's like, you're right. Here's a bench. And it's just like the recurring bit of Ellie ruining all of Ben's plans just by being a sweetheart.
Just, by being, like, the voice of good in the situation, just curbs, like, the constant devil on Andy's shoulder, which is Barney telling him to arrest an old man.
Ben gets so mad at her for just being decent. Just like, grr, how dare you exert human kindness? Ah!
I mean, she's very, like, she's saving him because Barney is not like, all right, well, let's arrest him. Barney is like, put him in the jail cell. Let me waterboard him. Let me beat this old man. Like, Barney would not just stop at arrest. He is furious.
So back inside, they're doing the tree lighting. This is where we get one of those musical interludes that Joe was talking about. And they play along. Ellie and Andy have a nice little moment where they play music together. Meanwhile, we see Ben go get his car and move it in front of the fire hydrant, the fire plug, intentionally. And Barney enters. Now he's arrested old Ben. And he wrote him a ticket for parking in front of a fire plug. And Ben tore up the ticket, and I'm amazed that Barney didn't murder him on the spot.
Just immediately gut shot him.
And he has this great freaking line here where Andy calls him on it. It's like, Ben, did you really do that? And Ben goes, I did. And Andy says, well, tearing up a ticket, that's contempt of the law. You got a reason for it? And Ben's like, yeah, I got a reason. I got contempt for the law around here.
It's a fucking Johnny Cash song.
It's so good.
And his delivery fucking rules. Like, I got contempt of the law. Like, it's so badass. It does
sunglasses,
not belong in
rap
this
playing in the background. Like,
yeah, it should be like mixed over a Wu-Tang track. Like, it's so fucking good.
So Andy figures he's just going to give him a new ticket. And then Ben says, good, I'll rip that one up too. And by the way, how does Andy not see what Ben is doing by this point? I don't.
He has to do this whole thing like 3 fucking times. Like, they should have picked up on like why this like previously authoritarian old man is trying to get himself arrested. They should have put that together almost immediately. But then I guess there would be no episode.
It's like, it almost should have been like a thing that Opie all of a sudden just kind of realizes, like, hey, Pa, we should invite him to the Christmas party. But yeah, no, we gotta let Ben be Ben, you know?
Sure. But this is fine because letting Ben be Ben rules.
Oh yeah, totally.
Just Ben's fuck you, I won't do it, you tell me is pretty great.
So Andy says that he's gonna the fine is only $2, but contempt is 2 days in jail. And Ben's like, all right, I'll take 2 days. And Ellie once again is like, it's Christmas, here's $2. Goodbye, Ben. Get out. So they kick him out again. And now they're, again, fade to black, fade back up. They're inside the jail. Andy and Barney are working on, like, fixing the lights. So they light the tree and everyone's really
They're just, like, setting up the tree, and Aunt Bea is, like, is like yelling at Barney about something. And then Andy drops the Barney poo line again. Like, he's like, oh, go get dressed up like Santa. Barney poo. Like, it's a very weird reoccurring bit.
And Barney's like, I'll get you back later.
Yeah.
Again, I like all of this. And I like what we're about to see, too, is that Andy picks up his guitar, and Ellie starts to sing beautifully. And she starts to sing Away in a Manger. And then Andy starts to sing, but the voice that comes out of his mouth, clearly not Andy Griffith. And,
right, like what I said earlier still counts, but this is definitely not Andy.
Yeah, and you go, like, for a second, I'm just like, what the hell, what is this? Because we know what Andy's voice sounds like, and it's not his. But then as the camera pans a little bit to the left, and it zooms in on the jail cell, we see Ben, once again, perched at the window looking in. And we realize that the beautiful tenor that is coming out of Andy's voice, or Andy's mouth, is not Andy, it is Ben's voice. He is sadly singing outside of the party, in this beautifully framed shot as he, like, looks in sadly, like John Wayne at the end of The Searchers. And Joe, you mentioned the feels, right? You said that
it's a heartbreaker, dude. I swear. Like, this scene is, you all of a sudden realize, if you haven't guessed it by now, what's going on, why Ben is being so ornery and angry. You realize that, like, he's the sad old man at Christmas, and all he wants is to be included in something. And it's just such a well-constructed little scene. And they like you said, it tells this whole story in, like, one camera move and one song. It's beautiful. It really is.
They literally describe nothing of Ben's backstory other than he owns the general store and he is very mean a lot. Like, they don't have to show him, like, walking around an empty house or, like, talk about how his wife died or anything like that. Literally just a few scraps of information and this shot. It's really great writing.
Yeah, the ultra reliable Mayberry wiki kind of says that Ben is said to be the richest man in Mayberry, but, like, that's just kind of inferred. Like, there's nothing canon about this.
I mean, he is the only one with anything even close to authority over Andy, so that sort of implies like a certain degree of wealth. If there was a richer person, they would also be telling Andy what to do.
That's true. But it's just, this moment is so good. But it's cut short by Barney coming in, and Don Knotts is clearly loving this, right? He's very happy to coming in as Santa, and he does this little ho-ho rendition. And
Ben looks so pissed off at this, too. He hates it so much.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, no, I was actually confused in that moment why Ben was pissed off. Was his anger like, that's not how Santa looks? Or was it...
That's what I want to say it was.
Or it might have almost been like a religious thing. Like, he was finally getting his, like, moment, and then Barney comes in as Santa Claus and just ruins it. Like, I don't know. I feel like that could have been a completely different direction for this episode if Ben had some, like, religious hang-ups about, you know, Andy and Barney and what they do as people. I don't know.
Possibly.
There is sort of a weird religious thing, and they mentioned Christ pretty explicitly in that song that Andy and Ellie sing. In that they pretty much just, like, do a song of, like, so Christmas is about Jesus and that primarily. Like, it's a weird old-timey amount of being able to talk about Christ.
Right. I mean, it's a very kind of backwoods sort of Appalachian sort of Christmas.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it is, really. But yeah.
Well, I think it's sort of like modern, like, Christmas stories. You kind of have to dance around the Jesus thing. And back then, you could just be like, oh yeah, by the way, here's a song where we say Jesus, like, 15 times.
I mean, right, I don't think they had any problem, like, just singing, like, church hymns out in public.
Yeah.
Like you kind of do now.
It's not quite like stopping the entire episodes that Linus can read from the Book of Luke.
Yeah. It's just like, this is what it is, and we're gonna move on.
By the way, since I'm apparently never gonna be on Christmas Creeps. That's a lie. I'm coming on Christmas Creeps in 2 weeks.
You're on next, Marty. Get ready.
Yeah. But I was going to say, something that's always bothered me about A Charlie Brown Christmas is that Linus is complaining that he can't memorize all the lines to the play that they're doing. He's, like, upset, like, I can't memorize all of this. But then he just recites pretty much the entire Book of Luke from memory. Just no problem on that one. Didn't even stutter. What the hell, Linus? Put some effort into it. Not to mention, like,
he's the innkeeper. What lines could he possibly have?
Right. Okay.
His one line is no. That's all you need as the innkeeper. No, you can't stay here.
Something to the effect of "fuck off."
So,
Yeah.
you can ad-lib it. So Ben falls off of his box that he's using to like stand on to look into the window, and so that creates a little noise. Out from the alley, there arose such a clatter, and Andy jumps up to see what is the matter. So he goes out to
Did you rehearse that?
No, that was improv, my friend. So Andy goes out and where he finds old Ben on the ground sulking. Go ahead.
They get into an argument. During the argument, Andy says why are you snooping around outside my jail cell? This is sketchy. And old Ben said, and he threatens to arrest old Ben for causing a disturbance and potentially being a prowler, which I didn't know that prowling was an official crime back then. But another it's the designated something fucked up happens. Ben says, if you arrest me, I'll sue for wrongful arrest. And Andy says, that's threatening an officer of the law. Which, no it isn't. Threatening to sue for wrongful arrest is definitely not threatening an officer. What the fuck are you talking about? It's sort of like that weird thing whenever someone goes hey, Andy Griffith, I don't think you're good at your job. He's like, well, that's illegal for you to say. They just slip in some authoritarian weirdness.
But it's Christmas!
I think that's why he pokes Andy pretty hard. Andy could justifiably say, well, you assaulted an officer of the law. Look at this bruise on my shoulder. It hurts. I need some ice. Barney! Ice!
Yeah, just then the episode abruptly turns to Andy testifying in court that old Ben assaulted him.
Now, Your Honor, I cannot throw my football with Opie the way I used to.
I will need disability and several months of him in jail.
Alright, so Andy figures out what's going on. Because he says something like, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you were trying to get yourself arrested. Oh.
Which fucking took you long enough.
So here's our conclusion. So we fade to black, and we come back up, and Ellie is worried because she says, man, Andy's been out there a long time investigating. So she sends Barney out to find Andy. But before Barney gets out, Andy comes in with Ben, and Ben has got a giant suitcase. Joe, do you want to tell us what's happening in this scene?
All right, so Andy explains that, well, since he's arresting Ben, Ben invoked his right to go home and get his personal effects, which sure, okay.
That's not a right, but okay.
Never heard that before, but okay. But he's getting this big suitcase, and he tells Barney to check the suitcase for files and whatnot, because, we can't have any of that in the prison cell. So they open it up, and it's a box full of gifts. He gives Opie a set of roller skates and says, I must have thought these were electric razors. And he gives the other kid a baseball glove and says, I must have thought this was a pillow. And he gives the little girl a baby doll, and he starts handing out gifts and whatnot.
I like how he doesn't have any excuse for the doll. He's just like, oh, what the hell is this? You take it.
It's who even what? Oh, come on. Little girl, here, have it. But
and then just starts throwing out miscellaneous presents.
Yeah, not just to Andy and Aunt B and all that, but to the Mugginses as well. They both get their gifts, and he gives Barney a gift, then he takes it away from him very angrily and hands it to Andy. But then he gives Barney a gift too, because all is forgiven, and everybody has a lovely Christmas party.
It's an adorable scene. Ben is genuinely heartwarming.
Ben goes to his cell to serve his time, quote unquote. And before he's allowed to go, he's stopped by Deputy Aunt B, who has made him a lovely plate of Christmas dinner. And he goes to his cell, and he drinks his eggnog, and he eats happily as part of the party. And it's so sweet, you guys. It's so good.
Heartwarming.
I love it.
Yeah, this is the textbook definition of heartwarming. You just want to snuggle up to a fire with this episode.
It's a great Christmas episode. And then the stinger is fantastic.
Dan, tell us.
So everyone is going home, and they're like Barney and Ellie leave, and they're in the process of letting out the muggins. And Sam and Andy are getting everything ready, and Sam picks up his moonshine jug and says like, "Oh, it's empty." And Andy's like, "Well, if there's no moonshine, I guess I can't charge you. What happened to all of it?" And Andy reveals that he left it in old Ben's cell, just thinking that like old Ben would have a little of it, and Ben proceeded to just down the whole thing, get pissed drunk, and pass out. And they just show Ben, like, in his bed, like, just happy and drunk. It's adorable. But also,
almost
Ben
dead.
killed... Yeah, he killed an entire jug of moonshine. Like,
Ben is blind now.
Yeah, he's going to have the most vicious hangover if he survives.
I want to point out, at one point, Sam, like, infers to Andy, he's like, "Andy, you didn't get rid of the moonshine, did you?" And Andy goes, No, I wouldn't tamper with evidence. And, like, why not?
Wink.
You do everything else in this town. Come on, man. You've broken every other, like, law enforcement law. Why stop at tampering with the evidence?
I mean,
really?
Sam kind of has that reaction where Andy's like, "I wouldn't tamper with evidence," and Sam's like, "Oh, really? Okay, cool, neat. I didn't know. I'm learning stuff about you." I totally would have picked up on that. Okay, continue telling me about yourself, Andy Griffith.
I think Andy's real answer is like, "Well, I wouldn't drink this in front of Opie, so otherwise I totally would have."
No, Andy will totally commit a felony in front of Opie. He framed a man for armed robbery and clued his kid in on the conspiracy last time. The line of what Andy Griffith will and will not do is an ever-moving target that we will never totally nail down. His code of ethics and loyalty to the law changes sometimes, like, in the midst of an episode.
Like this episode.
Yes!
So I would like to point out, like, about this stinger. So every Christmas they rerun this episode on our local CBS affiliate, and they've started to cut the stinger part, the part where Ben drinks the moonshine, out of the broadcast.
Oh, fuck you! What?
That's
And I don't know if it's. Yeah, I know, and I don't know if it's because like they're cutting the episode down for time, which this is already a really short episode, or if they're seriously censoring a friggin' 50-year-old TV show. But I honestly don't understand why, especially not in like Andy Griffith's like home market, you know?
I mean, cut one of the 7 scenes that's just them discussing the finer points of tree decoration. Like,
Yeah.
there is maybe 5 solid minutes of just like a party happening. Like they discuss they light the tree, and they like Don Knotts is just Santa for a minute and goes around being Santa. Like it's
there's a lot of
not
that.
even particularly TV showy. It's just the way a party would go.
So like if you see this on local TV now, like Ben gives the gifts and he gets his Christmas dinner from Aunt B, and it like the music fades up and the show is over.
That ruins the entire episode.
That sucks.
It
The
really
episode
does.
needs Ben pissed drunk. That's the conceit of the whole thing.
It's the punchline to the whole episode.
Isn't that Ben gets ripped on moonshine and passes out in a jail cell? Also, I really wanted there to just be like you know how a Christmas thing will always have like a zoom out shot as there's like a happy narration by like the equivalent of like the Grinch. I just wanted there to be one of those where they like slowly zoom out of the jail cell, and meanwhile the entire time this has been happening, the guys that Andy let out of jail have just been going on a fucking rampage. Like there's flipped cars and buildings on fire, and just these lunatics are just like running across the street.
Little did Andy know that the largest crime spree Pilot Mountain's ever seen was taking place not far from here.
They would go on to call it the Christmas Anarchy. For generations, it would be considered a legal precedent.
This entire episode is basically Christmas in the Drunk Tank by the Pogues. Like,
Yeah,
Holy
it is.
shit! Okay,
Wow.
that's the outro, okay? Like,
I was thinking about it, yeah.
You gotta do that.
Do that, or like you do that. That is 100% the outro.
Do that, but then the final button at the end has to be Ben going, Christmas.
Oh yeah, that's right. Christmas. We haven't talked enough about how Ben is literally Ebenezer Scrooge. Like, he straight up bah humbugs this whole thing.
He stops just short of saying the words. Yeah.
Christmas, right?
But it's not even a catchphrase because he just says Christmas and then just does a plosive. He just goes like Christmas, like just sort of like coughs a little.
Yeah. Like, Christmas, fuck you.
Yeah.
That's even
Just
more.
as-
No, that's more of a catchphrase. Like, at least those are words.
Just like Christmas.
like he's coughing. Like he wants to like hide something under his breath. Like, Barney sucks. You know?
And he has 3 goes at it. Like he keeps trying, and he's like every time I'm like, Ben, Christmas pie is not gonna catch on, man. Just say like.
Can we recommend maybe a Christmas harumph or
Harumph is right there, Ben.
Harumph is right there.
Stop trying to make pa happen. It's not going to happen. Alright,
God.
So, ratings for this episode, I think rather than do our typical, like, Andy meter and Barney meter rate, I mean, if we were going to do the Andy meter, I'm going to say 10 Andys. This is absolutely 10 Andys, it rules. But, Joe, as you are our special guest, would you like to explain to us the rating system on your show?
Sure. So, on our show, when we talk about movies, our rating system is called the Crankometer, because the first episode we ever did was Christmas with the Cranks. And it's an X and Y axis, and the X axis is how Christmassy this film is. Mm-hmm. And the Y axis is the quality axis, how good the film is. So for this episode, we do it on a scale of 5 to negative 5 to 5. So
because you don't have anything good. So we do the Andy meter versus the FIFO meter. The Andy meter is our quality. And the FIFO meter is
the FIFO meter, that's so good.
The FIFO meter is how like morally reprehensible, how messed up are the events of this episode.
Okay.
I think though I would like to replace the FIFO meter because it's not super high other than Andy letting everyone out of jail. I think I'd like to replace the FIFO meter with a crank for this episode. Dan, how do you feel?
So the cranks is like the degree of Christmassy. I mean, it's pretty Christmassy. There's no like lesson about Christmas like a lot of shows will have, where like a character will give a monologue about the importance of family over presents or anything. It's just generally like just people doing a Christmas and having a good time. I think like
Christmas
5?
is happening. Really, I'm gonna say like 9. Like, this is extremely
really
Christmassy. But Joe, you're our Christmas expert. How Christmassy would you say that this episode is?
Oh my god, I want to give it the full 10. I really do, but maybe that's just my personal bias. Because
really,
this is like pure strain, like ground zero for like Christmas traditions with me. So like it's not Christmas without it, and watching it puts me in that right frame of mind. Oh, so yeah, I know you guys are saying like if it's got to be based on how Christmassy the thing is, which is what we do, sure. But, like, yeah, it's still a full 10 for me. Like, it's Christmas in the courthouse. They're singing Christmas songs. They're having a party. The whole conflict is resolved because of Christmas. So I think that's worthy of a perfect 10.
All right, and as far as how much we like this episode, like, I'm going to say a 10. I love this episode.
I'll say a 9. I like Manhunt better.
Joe?
Yeah, this is a good episode of the Andy Griffith Show. Like, I don't want to ruin anything by saying if whether or not there's better or worse, because you guys have clearly gone worse here. But yeah, I would give it a solid 8 as far as the quality of the show goes. Yeah.
All right, and Joe, so you watch this episode every year? It kind of airs in your you mentioned.
Yeah, and if I miss it, like, it's on Netflix, and I will watch it.
Okay, so it is in your holiday rotation.
Absolutely,
Holy shit.
yes.
So how many times before we asked you to watch it for this have you seen it?
Let's see, I'm 31 years old, so
31 times?
That is
Probably.
a preamble.
I mean, a good dozen or two times. Like, I've seen it quite often.
Okay, all right. Other than that, I think that we are pretty much good here. Do you guys have any closing thoughts?
No, there's it's just too nice for me to have very much more to say about it. It's just a good little episode of TV that I very much needed.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Like I told y'all, I watch this every Christmas, but getting it in June is kind of, man, I needed this in my soul right now.
Yeah, like today was a rough day, especially politically and for the world. So I'm very happy that we got to talk about this today. Want to give a shout out? Yeah.
With just the last couple of episodes, it's been like, all right, so the world is a nightmare carnival. Let me just go and let me spend my leisure time submitting myself to the nightmares of yesteryear. And this was finally one where I get to not be horrified by the Andy Griffith Show for once.
All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up. By the way, I want to give a shout out to Twitter user. I'm gonna Trebucket or Trebuchet. The guy's name is Trey. His Twitter handle is Trebucket, but I think it's a Trebuchet joke, which is great if your name is Trey. Shout out to Twitter user Trebucket because he is always giving us good information on Twitter and responding to every single episode, and he's always got good insight and stuff that I wind up using in future episodes. So Trey, thanks for listening. We really appreciate all your feedback and everything. So just giving you a special Christmas shout out for Trey. You can follow us on all sorts of internet places if you want to be like Trey and talk with us. You can follow our show. We are on Twitter at Break Mayberry, on Facebook.com/Breaking Mayberry. Email us breakingmayberry@gmail.com. Please, if you like the show, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes. Also, give ratings and reviews and send us fan art or whatever. But the ratings and reviews really help us show up in search results for other people to listen to. So if you like us, please send that out there. If you want to follow us personally, you can follow me. I am at Schneid Remarks. That's SCHNEID Remarks.
I'm at The Luds.
Joe, where can we find your stuff? Sorry.
Yeah, you can follow me personally on Twitter at Cordial Wombat, and Christmas Creeps is ChristmasCreeps.com. We do shows typically every 2 weeks, and you can follow us on Twitter at Christmas Creeps. And I'm assuming you can get Christmas Creeps on iTunes and anywhere where pods are casted. Pretty much everywhere. Yep, correct. Okay. Yes. Guys, thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
So Marty has inexplicably collapsed from just sheer overload of Christmas joy.
Marty is sleeping off the holiday cheer with a jug of moonshine of his own.
So until next time, we'll catch you down at the fishing hole. One sec, I mispronounced fishing hole. Damn it, his job is hard. So until next time, we'll catch y'all down at the fishing hole. And then outro music.
Shazam.
So happy Christmas, I love you, baby. I can see a better time when all our dreams come true.
You promised me Broadway was waiting for me. Let's do another thing of explaining why Marty is out. We've seized control of the podcast from Marty's tyranny.
I have seized the means of podcasting. This is my show now.
It's a Christmas mutiny. Marty has lost control of the podcast. I get to say some bullshit about the fishing hole now.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I don't know where that came from.
Do another.
Marty's been kidnapped by the Darling family, so we're gonna wrap things up here and try and hunt them down.
Yeah. All right. We will catch y'all down at the fishing hole, as Marty says for some reason.
Yep.